Hey, what's up bikers? Pierce here with Electric Bike Report, and today we have the Fiido D11. The D11 is the perfect pocket commuter, ready to shorten your commute times and make sure you get there without breaking a sweat. With all of that being said, let's see what this bike is all about. So you may have noticed right away, the Fiido D11 has a seat post that's also a battery pack. This comes in at 10.2 pounds and it's a 36 volt, 11.6 amp hour battery. Because of Fiido's unique design, you're able to put a bigger battery in this bike than you would otherwise. They also kept it under 40 pounds, which I find pretty impressive. Another nice thing about this removable seat post battery is you can take this in to charge while leaving the bike outside, whether it be in the garage, in the closet, or in your car. Another nice thing about this is it has a tail light built in. This way, anytime the bike is on, you're going to have that tail light for extra visibility to others. So this works just like a normal seat post. You put it in, slide it down to your desired height, and then you connect it with this cable right here. Once that's cabled in, the power goes all the way down to your 250 watt motor that's capable of 35 Newton meters of torque. So far, my experience with this motor has been a good one. It's a good median of being a background motor in the sense that it's not going to take over for your ride, but also having enough kick and juice to keep your average speed up moderate hills and inclines. We're going to test the Fiido D11 on our hill. Our hill gets up to 15% grade and it has an average grade of 12%. In simpler terms, this hill tests the abilities of all our e-bikes, and I'm very curious to see how this little 250 watt motor does. My predictions are I'm not going to make it up on the throttle or the pedal assist. I like this bike a lot, it's just simply not a powerful one, so I'll be really happy if I make it up on either. Those two tests on our hill climb, throttle only and pedal assist level 3, the max pedal assist level. When I did throttle only, I didn't make it up the hill. I made it probably a little under halfway, and this bike really seemed to struggle when the hill got to its steepest grade. I'm honestly not surprised, and I'm not gonna pound the bike too hard for that just because it is a 250 watt motor. You only have a 15 mile per hour top speed on this bike, and it doesn't have the biggest wheels, which doesn't add up to a lot of rotational speed. When it comes to pedal assist level 3, the max pedal assist level, I did get up the hill. It took me 2.5 minutes, 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and I had an average speed of 7.2 miles per hour. What crossed my mind when I was going up this in pedal assist level 3 was the little engine that could, because I wasn't going fast, but this bike never gave up and it did make it to the top. One thing I really liked about this bike is I didn't even really have to work that hard. I just had to keep pedaling, and it did have enough power for me to get to the top. As I mentioned earlier, this has a Shimano tourney derailleur here with a 7-speed cassette and a monstrous chainring. The reason I wanted to bring these components up is because this is why this bike can climb hills. This bike isn't climbing based on power or speed. It's climbing based on a gear ratio that matches up very well with the wattage this bike is able to produce. When you're in your granny gear and your highest assist level, you're going to be able to get up pretty steep hills. So when it comes to the cockpit of your Fiido D11, there's a few cool features. On the end, you have pretty standard hard rubber grips. I am pretty indifferent about these grips. They are plenty grippy, but they aren't necessarily good or bad in any certain way. One thing I really do think is cool is our display here. This display not only matches the theme of the bike very well, it's very minimalistic and easy to use. Your top button here is simply to power the bike on and off, and your bottom button is where you're going to actuate all those pedal assist levels. Basically, this is how you're going to interact with your battery and motor, see where your charge is at, and ultimately see how much longer you have on that battery. We had a big question being, how far does this battery get before it finally dies? We did 2 tests, one on maximum assist and one on minimum assist. When I pedaled this bike in maximum assist, I reached 33.68 miles before it finally died, and I had an average speed of 11.9 miles per hour. My main takeaways were that this bike is good at keeping your speed consistent, whether you're on a moderate grade or on flat ground. The controller seemed to do a good job moderating that wattage usage to ensure I had a decent range on the battery. When our test rider tested this bike in minimum range, he got 47.23 miles with an average speed of 11.5. You may have noticed those average speeds aren't too much different, and it goes around the fact that this bike tops out at 15 miles per hour. Because of that, you're getting a longer range and a lot more consistent wattage output. This battery isn't going to fry itself on one particular hill. It's going to ensure that it's there for the long run, and it's going to get you to your destination while making sure you still have a little bit of charge left. With that being said, this battery pack is perfect for this bike. If you are a commuter, you don't want to worry about falling behind because your bike dies. And with such a big battery pack that's so efficient, I'm willing to bet none of you guys are going to run out of charge in your commute, unless it's over 50 miles. If you're ready to grip and rip it, you have this throttle here as well. It's a thumb throttle, and if you hold that down for more than 5 seconds, this bike goes into what we call moped mode, where it simply keeps the throttle on without you having to engage anything. To turn off moped mode, all you have to do is pull the brake lever and you'll be back to normal riding. And then you also have mechanical disc brakes that are hooked up to 160 millimeter rotors. With mechanical disc brakes, there's a lot of adjustment for power, and with those 160 millimeter rotors, you should be able to dial in your stopping power, whether you just like a gradual stop or a very high engagement stopping power. Regardless, these brakes will do the job, and I think they're the right size for the bike. Alrighty guys, we are to our brake test where we have cones set up 5 feet apart, and we're going to be doing 5 different brake tests. All of these tests I'm going from full speed and pulling both brakes at the same time, and then we'll take the average stopping distance. Just a little refresher, this bike comes with 160 millimeter rotors hooked up to mechanical disc brakes, and for testing purposes, we've set these brakes up in the middle of their stopping power range to give you a good idea of how these perform overall. With that being said, I'm looking forward to seeing if these brakes have me skidding and sliding everywhere, or if they help me stop on a dime. So without further ado, let's find out. All right guys, after those 5 brake tests, all from the top speed of the Fiido D11, my average stopping distance ended up being 12 feet 2 inches, which I find to be pretty good. That's plenty of distance. Where I'm a little concerned about these brakes is if you're on a steep hill. It's important to acknowledge these aren't the most powerful brakes in the world, so you'll want to brake a little in advance before it's too late. That's a little side tangent. On the topic of this test, it did very well, and I think that's for a few reasons. One, this bike doesn't go super fast, so it doesn't have a lot of inertia to stop it. Two, The mechanical disc brakes do have a lot of modulation, but if you really grip it hard, there is a lot of stopping power. And 3, this is a pretty light bike. This bike isn't going to get away from you, and it's not going to be so heavy that it just continues to roll as you try and slow it down. So with all that taken into account, I think these mechanical disc brakes are the right brakes for this bike. On steep hills at speed, just be a little cautious and brake a little more in advance than you'd expect, just because these are designed for a little bit more flat ground braking from what I've gathered. So holding this bike together is its foldable frame, and I think Fiido's done a very good job with the foldable frame in the sense that it is a true folding bike. It's not a bike where they just happen to make it fold after they are done designing it. So you have a foldable clamp here that's very easy to undo, and you also have a folding clamp here for your really long stem. Once those two are folded down and you have the bike folded up, it's very easy to transport relative to some of these other folders I've tested. So with the time I spent on the Fiido D11, I found this bike handles exactly how I'd hope it to, in the sense that it has a very tight turn radius and it's very nimble. One of the things that I think makes this bike so nimble is how all the electrical components on this bike, the things adding weight, are on the back end. Everything on the front end of that clamp is just like a normal bike, and because of that, it handles that way. So whether you need to make a very sharp turn, pull up hard over a curb, or you need to have more handling at higher speeds, the front end of this bike really allows you to do so without any extra weight added. I find myself cornering sharper and not needing to use brakes near as much on other bikes because of A, the average speed of this bike, and B, the fact that it's not going to go so fast that you're blowing around corners. I think this is going to be a great bike for those who are confined to smaller spaces in perhaps bigger cities or urban settings where you have to bob and weave in and out of traffic, on and off sidewalks, and maybe through an alleyway or two. So with that being said, I do think they've nailed this. You'll keep hearing me say pocket commuter, but that's exactly what this bike is. You unfold it, you grip it and rip it as much as you want, and then you fold it back up until next time. Alrighty guys, so here at EBR, we conduct what we call the circuit test, which is a 1-mile loop with a little bit of hill climbs, little bit of downhills, and 4 right turn corners. We do this test in each pedal assist level and with the bikes turned completely off. The reason this is useful is because we can see what each assistance level does on this bike and how efficient it is turned completely off. So when I pedaled our loop with the bike turned completely off, I averaged 11.6 miles per hour. When I was in my first assist level, I averaged 11.8 miles per hour. In pedal assist level 2, I had 12 miles per hour for my average speed, and our final pedal assist level 3, my average speed was 12.9. Now you've probably noticed, these numbers are pretty close together. I averaged 11.6 miles per hour with the bike off, and 12.9 miles per hour with the bike on its highest assist level. What's going on here? Well, this motor is designed to really help you when there is those gradual inclines. It's not ever going to break any land speed records. Because this bike is light, you can pedal it at a decent rate. And again, you're only seeing a higher average speed because this bike helps on hills. Anywhere else, it's going to be mostly manpower, and you're rarely going to get over 13 miles per hour. Do I mind that? No, actually. I think that's perfect for the moped style use of this bike. I relate it to those rental scooters you probably have in your hometown, whether they're the bird scooters or the spin scooters. This bike has a very similar average speed, but it probably has a lot more torque in the way of steep hill climbs. And for that, I see this bike being very good for those who are getting off the train and have a few miles to go before they're in the office, or for those who don't want to take the car to work that day. So with all that taken into account, I'm okay with this slower engagement motor. It still has the torque for the hills, but again, you aren't going to break any land speed records on the Fiido D11. Aside from that, you have full coverage fenders, front and rear, that are going to do a good job with splashes, mud puddles, anything that might ruin your attire for work that day. Can't complain about the fenders. I think they do a good job. And the last thing is your headlight here. I forgot to bring this up with the taillight earlier, but it's a Star Union light. It has plenty of lumens for this bike, and you're going to be seen by oncoming traffic pretty easily if you have this baby on. It also is pretty easy to adjust, and it stays in place wherever you adjust it. So as a whole, I think Fiido is doing a really good job getting you a quality commuter e-bike at a good price, and they really do seem to have mastered the foldable aspect, building this bike around being foldable first and building it out from there, versus some of these bikes building themselves up and then just adding a folding clamp at the end. Because of that, it's a true folder, and I refer to this as more of a pocket commuter e-bike, something that's very easy to take around town and that's never going to be inconvenient for you. Alrighty bikers, I've just finished up my review day on the Fiido D11. It's been a lot of fun zipping around town, and I have a few main takeaways from this bike. One, Fiido is really onto something with their battery seat post design. Not only does it tuck the battery away in a very visually nice way, it also offers a bigger battery overall. If they were to put that battery somewhere else on the bike, I doubt they'd be able to put an 11.6 amp hour battery on there. So with that being said, the range of this bike is rather impressive, especially for how big it is and the way it's intended to be using. I do think Fiido's onto something with their design here. Having all the electrical components that weigh down the bike centered around one area really improves the handling of this bike. As you may have heard me mention earlier, the front end of the bike feels very natural, and that's because you don't have to worry about the battery pack or anything weighing down that front end. Because of that, the turn radius of this bike is very easy to work with, and overall, it's very maneuverable for the situations you'd be in on this bike, like going through alleyways in a big city. I do feel like this is kind of a beta model of this bike from Fiido, not to say that it isn't good, but there are a few main things on this bike that I would like to see improved or changed for future models to really refine the little details on this. So this is me getting a little nitpicky, but I would like to see an adjustable stem when it comes to the height. My knees got a little bit close to the handlebars when I was pedaling this bike, and I think any other taller riders would agree that your knees do get a little close for comfort. So having that adjustable stem regarding handlebar height will be a nice addition. Other things that I'd like to see changed, I wouldn't mind a little bit wider tires. That's probably because I come from a mountain bike background and I do like something where I can corner without braking. That's probably more of a personal preference though. But yes, overall, if you're looking for a pocket commuter, something to get off the train, ride 2 miles to work, and store away by your desk, the Fiido D11 is definitely that. Not only is it a good price point, Fiido's given you some very quality components for the price point this bike is listed at. So overall, I've been very satisfied. I do think they're onto something with their battery seat post setup. It feeds into the motor well and gives a lot of charge, and I had a lot of fun today. So with all of that taken into account, I really appreciate you guys sticking around to the end of this review. It really helps us a lot. Be sure to leave a like if this video was helpful to you, and comment below what you'd like to see in the future. We always enjoy reading and responding to your comments, so if you want to see certain bikes reviewed or have something to say about this one, we definitely want to hear about it. I've written a very detailed written review for you guys on the Fiido D11. You can find that in our description below. And be sure to subscribe for future reviews on the bikes. We try and get them out to you guys as soon as we can. With all of that being said, my name is Pierce here with Electric Bike Report, and I do appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you next time.